Hello, everyone. Welcome to Member R&R Recruitment and Retention. Since it is now 8:05 p.m., we're going to go ahead and get started.
So to introduce ourselves, hello everybody. My name is Matthew Uyemo. I am a first-year business admin major at El Camino College. I served as the 2019-2020 club president for El Camino College, which I did get distinguished, which I want to give a quick shout out. We also had the highest gem in the district, and then I was also the 2020-2021, or I am currently the Metro Lieutenant Governor.
Hello, everyone. I'm the other host for the super cool workshop. I'm Brayden. I'm a fourth-year astrophysics major at UCLA, so I'm going to be graduating this spring. Exciting. This past term, I had the pleasure of serving as their 2019-2020 District Membership Development and Education Chair, and previously in the 2018-2019 term, I was a distinguished club secretary. With that, we're going to go straight into this workshop. Just before we do, I just do want to mention that if anyone has any questions, that we will be having a discussion/question section at the end of this workshop. So just feel free to hang in tight. And if you need us to repeat anything, do let us know in the chat.
So we'll start off with what we all love to do, recruitment. So there's two different target categories, or ideal target categories in terms of recruitment. There's new members, which ideally, yes, recruitment is new members, right? And then like kind of going more into detail, it's typically freshmen or sophomores ideally, because then they'll stay members for many more years than like just say one. So some different recruitment methods. One, we all know tabling, right? You have to like have effective tabling to be able to grow your membership. So one way that I found was very effective for my club was advertising Circle K, not as just a service club, but advertising it as a community service social club. You have to also involve the other tenants of our organization when advertising Circle K. Also have fun in interactive games happening at your booth. Such as for my club, we had a dog toy making happening right behind where we were tabling. I've seen other people have ultimate frisbee, a wheel to spin, or also have something to hand out, such as I've seen Cal Poly Pomona this year had stickers and like also a handout of events coming up. Other things that you can do for recruitment is you can hold on-campus events. When you hold an on-campus event, make sure the event is visible to the whole. Talking to us and having fun and playing games. And then, yeah, Waluigi Wednesday is what we called it. And also have members invite friends to meetings. Like this is something that we overlook as an organization, is the impact that like inviting friends has. Like think about it. If every person or in our organization invited one friend, we just doubled our membership, right? A club that has 100 people, invite one friend, they all join. We now have 200 people. And one thing that you need to do when advertising your club is think about where your club stands in terms of size, right? I have it as a very broad, or this is very specific, but you also have to like realize like where your school is. So I have it as like CSUs and UCs typically are like the big schools or schools with more than 40 members. Of course, if you're a CSU or a UC that doesn't have 40 or more members, like some of these might be useful, but some of like the other things I might have for say a community college might be more helpful for you. So in terms of CSU and UC advertising, you have to make your like how the more members you have there, the more engagement, right? Especially when you want to bring like older returning members and returning board officers out to tabling, so then they can talk about their experiences in the organization with all of the new potential members that you're having join your organization. Another thing is advertise based on people's personalities. Like one of one of the most important things when you're tabling is finding things out about the person, right? Like if you say, "Oh, it's a community service social club, like you should join," like they're less inclined to do that if that's not something that they're passionate about. So you have to be able to like advertise based on people's personalities. So talk to them, find out what their hobbies are, if they like to play any sports, find out just other things about them that they could that you could use in your advertising. Say somebody's very artsy, talk about how you guys make scrapbooks, or if they like film, pictures, or big events like FTC is such a good opportunity for people to practice their skills. We are a professional development like club as well in the end of the day, and like these are perfect ways for these people to get better at what they want to do with their lives. So one of the big things is like elevator pitches versus learning about them. You can advertise your club like, oh, you should join where we focus on service, leadership, fellowship. We have this many members, we go to these events, right? That would be your typical elevator pitch. But by learning about them, you can now I target your advertising based upon who the person is. Um, Another big thing for CSUs and UCs, you guys have transfers. Transfers are new members too, right? For say a club like Long Beach who get tons of transfers, those are new members to their club, and so you still have to treat them like they're new members. Make sure you're still inviting of them, and make sure you're not like taking advantage of them in any way. And also in terms of transfers, like one of the big things when I was running for LTG, the big question was, am I going to help the big schools of Metro? And it took me so long to realize actually how I'm going to do this. But I realized transfers are the way that I help big schools. By the big schools helping the division, so big schools like CSUs and UCs, help your fellow community colleges because those are your future members sitting in those other schools, right? Even though you won't see the direct impact in your club right at that moment, you'll see the impact 2, maybe even 3 years down the line. And another good thing to do when you're tabling is talking about retention methods. Talk about the friendships and crazy fun events that you always look forward to. Um, for me, I really like to talk about FTC, or I always talk about our monthly bonfires with my club. And so then the other target category, or like advertising basics, is for community colleges and smaller clubs, or like kind of the small school category. Again, there are some UCs or CSUs that would fall under this category of a smaller club. So one thing is advertising to community college students, right? Specifically, talk to them, ask where they want to transfer to. If somebody, for me specifically at El Camino College, I have CSU Long Beach, CSU Northridge, Pepperdine, USC, and UCLA all in my division. So when anybody brings up any of those schools, I immediately be like, oh my gosh, you get to actually interact with them while being at divisional events. I during my club rush, I even hung up a UCLA and a CSU Long Beach shirt up like at my club rush booth, and people's eyes were immediately caught by like the name of the school, right? So for community college students, really advertise the transfer aspect of Circle K and how there's so many opportunities for them to get involved. There is there's a Circle K club on almost every single UC and CSU campus in the entirety of CNH. Um, and especially for like Nevada and like Hawaii schools, like a lot of the bigger schools also do have a Circle K. So when they transfer, they have opportunities to make those friends in those schools before they even go there. One of the bigger problems for community colleges and smaller clubs is they don't have financial support to be able to print advertising as well as maybe make stickers. Or for me, it was getting a club banner. Like this was stuff that I could not do because of the club's financial problem. So you have to reach out to your local Kiwanis clubs. They know better than anybody what the cost of advertising is. They have to do it to a community, right? Like you have to do it to a college community, but they actually have to do it to an entire community. So they understand what it's like, and so they'll be more willing to help you advertise. And kind of the last thing is like friendships are the core to a small club. Make sure that when you are advertising, make sure you talk about the friendships people can get, especially at community college where people can feel lonely and feel like it's just kind of like an extension of high school, you have to make sure people know like there's people there for them. There is friendships. There is many opportunities to get involved and actually have a college experience when oftentimes community colleges forget about the college experience. You need to foster fellowship in your small club, and that's very, very vital. Um, Make sure to have an impact on their day. Tell them that they look good. Tell them that, you know, give them like words of encouragement and words of support that really make their day and make them want to come back and see you. And kind of like to the last thing for recruitment, the first week. The first week is your big test. This is the week after Club Rush. Say you got, for me, in my case, I had 160 or 180 signups for a club, right? Yes, a lot of those could be just people doing it just to get like money or whatever, or not money, but getting like candy or whatever, or just wanting to sign up for a club. But the first week is where it really matters. First impressions matter, right? Um, for your club, if you have a bad first impression, that could be the downfall of your club. It could be the difference between getting 40 members and getting 10 members. It's vital. Your first official club event needs to grasp the attention. Oftentimes, this will be your first club meeting. You need to make sure that club meeting is prepared, and you need to make sure your club is ready for this first club meeting. Again, first impressions matter. Have a welcome week. This is one thing that I've seen specifically CSU Long Beach is the kings and queens of, which is their welcome week. Having events all throughout the week. So for Long Beach specifically, from their first to their second general meeting, they have an event every single day for members to attend. And so they always ended off with a really fun event like a bonfire. And that's kind of like where new potential members really decide, am I going to stay in this club or not? For the welcome week, for me, I personally was struggling, right? I was a new club. I was a new president. It was my first year in Circle K. And so we had like a Waluigi Wednesday. We had like a Boba Run Thursday. And a lot of those didn't go too hot, but it was the bonfire as well as the DCM that really kept members in for me. Um, and so make incentives for welcome week. One thing that CC Long Beach does is they have a stamp card where like at each event you get like a little stamp or like little like hoorah that you came, and then they have a celebration or just a reward for coming to every single event during that welcome week, right? So for a club it could be like an ice cream party, or maybe it's like $1 off of their dues, right? um, or they're put into a raffle for a free club t-shirt. Things like that will really go the long mile to making your club like something great. And like I was saying, make sure to end off the week and end off that welcome week with such an amazing event. You want this to be one of your most memorable events of the entire year, such as a bonfire, a water balloon fight, color war. Go all in for this week, right? If you're able to grasp members and make them create those friendships and create those bonds now, you won't have to do that throughout the term, right? Like, yes, you will, but like not as harsh as you do in the first welcome week, right? And one thing you really want to do in terms of this welcome week is not just have new members go, but make sure your returning members are attending. If your returning members aren't attending, why would your new members attend, right? Make sure that your board officers aren't just talking to board officers, that they're talking to new members. For presidents and executive board members here, lead by example. Like if you don't do it, why is your A board going to do it? And then why would your returning members do it, right? Make sure you're talking to all of the new potential members for your club, because every single person could be your next president or even could be your next governor, right? Make sure older members are able to talk about their experiences and how they've been able to grow through the club. And remember, in the end of the day, fellowship grows clubs. So this is an example of bad tabling. As you can see, it is a mess. The posters falling off. There's clipboards. There's papers. He's sitting behind the desk, all slouched. Right? If you walked up to this, would you join? I would probably say no. Right? If we can go to the next one. Not to shout out my club any more than I have, but this was my Club Rush booth. Even though this is not the most amazing booth out there, and like, but I really do feel like my club had a very effective booth. We were able to get 180 signups, like I said, and we had over like 40 or 50 people come to our first club meeting because of our effective advertising here. My VPA at the time, Ivan Medina, even like dressed up as Spider-Man. Like having things like that happen at your booth will draw attention. We were also playing music, dancing around, having fun, right? In the right photo, one, two, three, five members there were brand new members that were all sitting there talking about their college experience and how they were looking forward to the term and like joining the club, right? You really have to make Club Rush something that people see. Like even if they don't sit there and interact with you guys, they need to see it and be like, I want to join that club. This is something I want. Make sure it's organized. Make sure you have people walking around. Make sure people aren't just standing behind the table and sitting there. Have people walk around Club Rush, talking, holding signs. Maybe even like if you've seen those like Instagram cutouts, like have people have photo opportunities. Just be very interactive at Club Rush and be very social. Be those little social butterflies.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew, for telling us a lot about recruitment. So as you can see, recruitment is definitely a lot of stuff relating to giving members a great first impression, especially when they first join a club. And from there, it's when retention really takes form. Retention is really the essence of showing your members, whether they're new or returning, maybe even retired, that there's a lot to see when it comes to Circle K and that there's going to be a lot to come back to when they need to come to Circle K events. So retention is an ongoing thing, and it really does consist of just any event that you'll have in general. But oftentimes when it comes to retention, a lot of clubs will be having to focus on very specific target categories. The three that I've listed here are returning general members, junior and senior members, and retired board members, or anyone else retired from a leadership position. And so the reason why I put these three as target categories is that they're not necessarily the only ones that need to be aimed at when it comes to retention, but there are specific things about each of these target categories that is important to recognize when you're trying to think about, how can I like get this person to, stay in the club? So for example, returning general members, maybe they have or have not had a leadership position and you're trying to show them that there's still a lot more in the club. Perhaps you want to show them that there's division and district level and even international level opportunities for them to accomplish. For junior and senior members, you might focus on things like leadership, professional development, career development, and talk to them about maybe alumni or other things like resume and interview stuff that maybe you can provide in the form of workshops. For retired board members, it's a little more complicated, depending on what they've been able to experience in their term, whether it's trying to just motivate them with events to get them inspired about service, leadership, and fellowship in general, or maybe just trying to give them a chill time with a lot of fellowship events because maybe that's what they want to spend more time with. So next I'm going to go over some specific retention strategies that you can implement in your club. And it really just depends on the club that you have because every club is different. Even clubs within the same quote unquote size level may benefit more from certain types of retention strategies than others. And so I've divided them into two types of which are based on fellowship and then leadership. Service is a given because is the main component of Circle K. But for fellowship, there is a lot that does go into retaining members because fellowship, as Matt said, fellowship helps build your clubs. It helps them grow. So in doing so, a lot of things that you do in your club for fellowship, maybe families or mentorship, really do play a big part. So the first foremost thing is the Big Little and mentorship system. Just of course, naming convention does depend on the club. I know UCLA calls it mentorship, but at other clubs they may call it Big Littles. And so this is just a way for your members to have one-on-one interaction and bonding and allows them to, get used to the club one person at a time, develop that one close bond with someone instead of being overwhelmed with a large group of people, especially if the club is pretty large. And this is especially important and getting returning members to get involved because it allows them to, share their wisdom with the youngins, helps them feel like, oh my gosh, I have a mentee that I can take care of and spend time with. And, maybe be a little superficial, like, oh yay, I have a freshie that'll swipe me into the dining halls or something. But in any case, it is a really big part of retention, both from the little side and also from the big side. Building it up from there is the family systems, which expands the community to a bit bigger, maybe 10 to 20 to 30 people, of course, depending on club size again. And so this is more for building those close-knit garden communities within the club. And so this also helps to build circles with members of the same year because they'll be interacting in these small groups that helps make the club seem not as big as it usually is. Um, Family systems are also um, a little complex to handle because it does involve the incorporation of family heads, maybe godparents, depending on what your club requires. And that is, of course, investing in more leadership. But by having family systems, you really do cut the club size down because for some people, it'll be like, wow, I came to a general meeting and there's like so many people here that I don't know. But if they decide to stay in the club and they start joining the family systems, once developed, are a great way for people to get to meet other members. Maybe they're new, or maybe get inspired by returning members that may serve as a role model to them. And then the last thing for fellowship on the slide, it's a really, really big thing sometimes, and sometimes is the necessary method. Is this personal outreach? And that's because sometimes members are just like, yeah, I know there's big and littles, I know there's families and stuff, and sometimes you may have to do direct quote unquote confrontation and persuasion, not necessarily calling them out and yelling at them, but inviting them because people will be more inclined to come with someone they know, as is mentioned in the recruitment section. Maybe I'll be like, oh, hey, Erica, you like want to go to like the boba social with me? Oh my gosh, that sort of thing. And then because maybe you two are close or something, they'll be inspired to come back and maybe they'll have a good time being able to interact with other members that they haven't gotten to see because they haven't come out to many events. And maybe they'll start interacting with new members and they'll be like, wow, I love seeing these new fresh faces in our club. I feel reinvigorated and inspired. And this will come a bit later, but it also does help to fight cliques with inclusivity, whether that is personally outreaching to members that maybe feel shy about coming out again because they don't feel like they fit in, or maybe just, personally outreaching to people during an event when it seems like maybe you're getting a little excluded because cliques form, but I've also covered this a little in tricks. So the other side of this is leadership because there's also a lot of direct leadership opportunities that you can definitely take on when it comes to Circle K. And so for further actual opportunities of growth, sometimes you might have this lovely adage that you're not done with Circle K. Wow, this is especially the case for me, and it's especially the case for a lot of people that I know in Circle K. We go through like appointed board and we're like, you know what, I'm done. And then all of a sudden you get nominated for executive board, you get elected, and you're like, wow, I'm on e-board. And then they'll continue from there and there. And sometimes, depending on how retention goes, maybe retention has inspired you well enough that you just want to keep going through Circle K, that you just want to keep inspiring other people, attaining these leadership positions and growing in them. And so for something like that, there are a lot of different ways for people to achieve this. There's advertising district committees, ad hoc positions, DLT, separate ad hoc positions that does include anything from the actual district level to maybe other things. Perhaps it's your club. Um, Perhaps a Lexi chair, for example, UCR's Kids Rock concert, maybe we'll have a chair to help host that super cool large scale event, that sort of thing. Or maybe you'll inspire them to go on DLT, the divisional leadership team, take it a step up, kind of like club board, but at the divisional level. And of course, maybe you also want to tell people that once they graduate, they're technically not done with Circle K because they've become alumni. And so that's also really important because with that does tie into the professional development aspect because you get to show Circle K members, especially when they're new and they just joined, that there's this great community of people that came in to do community service. They've had so much leadership experience. Maybe they've gotten so much in actual professional career development, and that way they can be a great connection / resource for them as well. If I wanted to add a third R to this workshop name, it would be membership, recruitment, retention, and recognition, because recognition of our sprouts is especially important. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical certificate, but just being able to give someone a shout out sometimes is enough, because for a lot of times we are doing things out of the goodness of our heart, because that is the core of community service and volunteering. But being able to recognize members when they go out of their way to do something extra is really important. It'll inspire them to come back. It'll make them feel like their efforts are being recognized. And there are a lot of different ways to do this. Um, where things are senior spotlights, UCLA does this in their spring quarter, where every general meeting, they'll like have some of the seniors come up and they'll do a sort of panel, to recognize that they're old, they have experience in college and in Circle K, and they're going to share it. You might have member of the week or member of the season. And I know a lot of clubs do this, from Cal State Fullerton to Cal State Long Beach. And this is just a really great way to recognize a member every week, depending on how maybe they've been going to a lot of events, they've been a super stellar new member in welcome weeks. Maybe you want to shout out one of your members for hosting a super cool large scale event, stepping up, that sort of thing. And of course, there's also birthdays, because birthdays happen a lot and we love birthday celebrations. Yeah. There are also a lot of other forms of recognitions that I listed here. That's actually event chairing. Maybe it's not necessarily a large scale event like Masquerade Ball or Kids Rock, but maybe just a regular service project that someone stepped up to host. Maybe it's driving to an event, because driving does require a car, and the cars comes like insurance and gas costs. So being able to recognize people for driving is important, because some people especially will be driving a lot if you don't have a lot of drivers in the club. And of course, there's also workshop hosting, because a lot of people will be hosting workshops at maybe the divisional or district level, especially at events like Fall Training Conference and District Convention. And of course, you can also step this up by having people host workshops in your home club as well, and of course, recognizing them for that. From there, you can also start providing your Circle K members professional resources. This is something that is accomplished at the district level in Fall Training Conference and District Convention workshops. And this ranges from a variety of topics, from actual self-care to more difficult topics of talking about more controversial issues, to even things like developing your resume and getting tips for interviewing and elevator pitches. And sometimes you may not necessarily need to provide as detailed of these resources as necessary, because we are a service club, but it is also important to do this. And this especially is good catered towards, say, those upperclassmen that, when I graduate soon, they're like, I kind of need to start thinking about getting a job after I graduate, because I kind of have to think about that. So you can do this for, perhaps you might have a career development night, where you have a night where alumni and Kiwanis come in to actually give members advice about their resume and whatnot, and just help them network. Or you may have other programs in your club, for example, an actual test bank where members of your own club submit their own tests, midterms, and just help that spread apart, because a lot of people may have similar majors, they may be taking the same classes, and they'll be like, I'm kind of not doing good on my midterms, so maybe the test bank will help me get some things I need for that. But then the last thing I have on the slide that I've mentioned is energy and sunshine. That's just because you really help your plants grow by giving them a lot of light as well, in general. And by doing that, you can just have that by having good meeting variety and a lot of fun different activities or a lot of different events. Being able to have great energy and showing genuity in your energy is especially important, because when members do join, they really want to join an environment, a community, a family that really feels welcoming and actually feels like they belong in there. And if they don't have, and if your members or your club doesn't seem to have that right energy, maybe it feels a little fake, then it's not going to be that right vibe for some people. And some people will be like, I don't vibe with this. And sometimes it's just really important to recognize what people will be drawn towards, what people might not be drawn towards.
So I guess we'll move into the virtual dilemma. So as you all know, we are currently in an online only format because of COVID-19. Even though this is not the way that we wanted to end the term as well as start the new term, I really think that this will really help out in terms of like divisional, um, like getting closer with your division, like being in an online format, especially for like a division like Metro where we're so spread out. I guess I'll kind of get into some things that you guys can do on the club level before I get into that. So one thing you can do is welcome week orientation sessions. Make sure that you are still having like a welcome week, doing fun games and activities throughout the week. Make sure to include things like service, leadership, and fellowship in your actual events. For the service, you can do like things like freerice.com or bean.com, making face masks, hotline support. Um, for leadership, you can host webinars. Like right now, this is like the best time to host webinars because people, especially for new board members, have a lot to learn. And your old board, before say graduates are leaving, this is the perfect time for them to pass on their knowledge. For fellowship, you can do things like Jackbox, Code Names, Scribble.io, movies, PC games, live streams. One club that I've noticed that has done an insane job in terms of fellowship is CSU Long Beach. They have a club Discord that people are active on there like all throughout the time. There's even people on there right now. And CSU Long Beach has created this environment that people can just be there, talk to their friends, talk to their club members, and just enjoy life in quarantine with their fellow members. In terms of divisional unity, this is one thing that I feel very passionate about in terms of especially Metro. Right now, like clubs and divisions may not feel that close to each other, but this is the perfect time to start getting close. This is the perfect time to be doing interclubs, the clubs that you won't ever be able to do it with, right? If CSU Long Beach wanted to host an interclub with UC Davis, right now is the time to be doing it. Be growing closer with your fellow district and division counterparts. You just made your gas price of an interclub go from like 20 bucks, 10 bucks to zero just by doing an online interclub.
And of course, with all this recruitment and retention, there are also some general things that you should remember, regardless of whether it is going to be an in-person event or online, as we are trying to do right now. So I mentioned this earlier in retention, and that is the issue of clicks and inclusivity. Unfortunately, clicks occur and are out of our control, and that is something to keep in mind, especially when you have bigger clubs. You could mathematically describe it as that bigger clubs may have a higher likelihood of having clicks. But the point is that when you have members and they're all going to have similar interests, whether it's gaming, League of Legends, K-pop, raving, that you're going to start forming these cliques, and sometimes it is important to figure out how to deal with these. Some of the best way is especially working with your board members and family heads to be able to include members to try to break up these circles and help everyone intermingle, so that way people can get to meet other people. Maybe they'll end up meeting someone who actually has the same interest, but they never would have interacted with them because they stayed within their circle. And with that, that also comes to you as a member, as a role model, to also just reach out yourself, as to reach out to your prospectors and new members, because sometimes they may feel out of place and they may not necessarily have someone there in the first place to talk to when they first join. And one thing I'd like to point out for this is, especially when you reach out to members, it doesn't mean just necessarily going up and be like, hi, are you new here? Okay, bye, and go to the next one. Stick with that member, form that relationship with them, and help them feel like that they know one person pretty well already, and keep that in mind, because maybe they'll keep coming back to events. And for you to be able to have built that relationship where the next time you see them and you call them by name and their eyes light up because there's someone, at least one person in this new unfamiliar environment that recognizes them, that makes a really big difference to someone. The next general thing I want to mention is 100% success is not realistic, because there is no exit credit in real life. Unfortunately, you will have successes and failures, whether you're tabling and flyering and trying to tell people interested in service, and a lot of them will look at your flyer or ignore you. The adage is to get used to rejection because it will happen a lot. Sometimes you'll do so much and your retention methods are sound. You know how to recruit members. You have a great, wonderful family, but maybe some members just won't join or they'll just leave in the end. And so that'll happen. It'll happen for a variety of reasons. Maybe people are just completely burnt out. Some people maybe are just like, oh, I'm already in other clubs, academics are killing me, that sort of thing. In side note, in which case you want to emphasize that Circle K is a low commitment club. But in any case, from knowing that, it is really important to focus your energy on where the growth has already started. If you notice in the corner of these slides, we've had a cute little flower pot. It's been growing very slowly throughout this entire workshop, and it is a pretty important symbol to the fact that if you focus your energy on something that you know is already starting to grow and that you know that it'll keep growing more and more, then by taking the time to invest in it, then you'll see some pretty good results in it. You'll have members that'll feel really inspired with service, that'll make a community on their own, that'll inspire others to join as well and create an even bigger family within the club. The last thing I'd like to mention is crop rotation. And I don't mean rotating your crops for like, now's the season for peaches. Oh no, now it's apples. I mean, figuring out the different types of events that you should be having. Because, for example, a lot of times I've always been attending welcome weeks with my home club, and I'm always like, oh, I bet we're having a kimbap fundraiser again. I bet we're going to Chipotle again, that sort of thing. And so with that, you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to have an island with pears on it all the time. I want variety. So with that, sometimes you might look at having maybe different types of fundraisers or different types of service projects, because that way your returning members especially will be like, wow, this welcome week is really different. I can come back, I can try something new this time around, especially when it comes to every year, one after the other. And this is especially important because sometimes the causes that you're volunteering for will actually change from year to year, just like the way our DSI, District Service Initiative, and District Fundraising Initiatives change from year to year. And so one really super cool way you can assist in your co-op rotation is by observing what other clubs are doing. And this is a really good time because everything is online. You can literally go lurk in say maybe you're from Paradise Division. You can literally go to like Sacramento State's events and be like, what are they doing at the general meetings? Or maybe you're all the way and UC Berkeley and you'll go to like UC Irvine's 12-hour question and dare live stream that is actually happening right now. And you'll see that and you'll be like, wow, a live stream that also helps them get funds. I should try something like that. So many clubs right now, because they're online, there's so many different ways that clubs are dealing with this issue and having their own events to deal with it, whether that's playing freerice.com. I know Cal Poly Pomona did that, and a lot of other clubs did that. I know Cal State Long Beach has been having movie nights every single week. I know UC San Diego has also been interclubbing and having, say, a codename social with UC Irvine, things like that. And clubs like UCLA and Cal State Fullerton have been having bingo cards to raise funds for the Environmental Defense Fund. Just because everything is online, there's just a lot of materials out there, and it is really important to, talk to other clubs, ask them about what they're doing, because we're all in this together, and, there's just a lot of inspiration out there if you just take a little bit to check out the different types of plants that are out there.
We'll move into a discussion now.
Yep. I'd like to mention that this is also technically where everyone can ask questions, but I really want to emphasize discussion because everyone can also, pitch in because, like I mentioned, every club is doing different things, and y'all know what your clubs are doing. So definitely feel free to also answer because I mentioned some cool things that we all are doing. So any questions?
Do you want people to use like the raise hand feature to ask questions, or how do you want them to ask? Just unmute?
I think people can unmute, yeah.
Okay.
Or just text if you're kind of shy. I'm currently not seeing any questions yet, but hey, Matthew, I have a question for you. Are there
Wow.
any cool events that you've seen other clubs doing during this whole COVID-19 pandemic that maybe you'd like to shout out?
Wow. Thank you for that question, Brayden. I really want to shout out PCC and their game night. I really enjoyed going to that, and I really enjoyed the fun time that Ryan and the rest of his board put on. It was awesome being able to play Mafia as well as I forgot the other game's name. It was like Spy. We played those really fun games online that really made me learn a lot about the other people there at the in the club, and it really did stand out to me. I also really want to give a big shout out to I know I've shouted them out way too many times this time, but CC Long Beach is hosting a weekly movies at the beach like social with their club, and so they like live stream. So this week they're watching Mulan, and like last week they watched Space Jam. So really just interacting with their clubs. I know CPP also did a movie night, which is really cool. So yeah. Mhm. uh, Brayden, besides Zoom, what is another way to like video chat?
Thanks for that question, Matthew, and specifically Brandon Garcia. So this is actually a pretty important question because I have considered this throughout my past term in having online meetings because in case you didn't know, if you have a regular Zoom account, you can only have 40-minute meetings, which is kind of like, excuse me, we're kind of all online right now and at home. We don't like this limit. Um, so for Discord, I believe maybe someone here has actually experience with a Discord server, but I don't think you actually need to pay to have a basic Discord server because I know like Long Beach has one, Sac State has one. Um, and then for, yeah, Discord is definitely a good place for video chatting, but it's also a way to stream stuff. So like Cal State Long Beach streams their movie nights on Discord. And then for other video chatting platforms, um, really, as of right now, it really is Zoom and Discord that are really popping right now. Google Hangouts has been dying, and Skype is kind of dead.
Mhm. I'll just chime in a little bit about Discord. In Discord, you can also have different channels and different chat channels based on like what you want to play. So, like I know for CC Long Beach, they have like a Dingus channel and an Upa channel and then another one. And so then like there'll be a group of people in one playing Overwatch while another group is playing Smash in another one while people are just chilling and hanging out in another. So there's so many opportunities in Discord, especially like video chat and things like that. Yeah, it's definitely an awesome, resource. Mhm. Any other questions? Or if anybody wants to, like, unmute and talk about how their family systems or mentee or mentee systems or any special way that they, advertise Circle K or Recruit. Hey, Audrey.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Chloe, my VPS, because she does a really great job of like individually reaching out to new members or general members. Like after we have an event, she thanks them for coming, like through Messenger, or she'll like individually invite people to come to our events. And so just kind of wanted to give her a shout out for doing that.
We love recognition, see? I also wanted to, like, really quick before we do that, um, I really want to emphasize the importance of personally reaching out like what Chloe does. For me, there's no way I would have had the term that I had without personally reaching out. Like, if I wanted members to come to an event, I would text that member personally, even though like I had the remind, I would text them personally or send them a message on Facebook Messenger. I'm like, hey, like, thank you for coming to the event. It meant a lot to like learn about you and talk to you. and really make them feel like they were wanted and really make them feel like they were welcome there. Remy, you want to talk about it?
Mentioned that during table he used to, I think, shock the audience with something and then throw his advertisement. So let's see, he says, "Do you want minimal conversation? Any chance to win a prize?" Confuses them, so they ask about what I'm tabling for. I like that. I think that's especially important, being able to have oh no, I can't think of the word. Different, for lack of a better word, different ways of advertising to people, and I especially like what Remy put, because, like, if you throw people off, maybe you're not like, "Are you interested in service? Are you interested in service?" But saying something different, I especially think that's a pretty cool way to like get people to be like, "Oh, this is a different feel. Tell me more," sort of thing.
We have about like 9 minutes left or so. So does anybody else have any questions or wants to talk about like crazy ways that your clubs advertise or welcome weeks or retention? Don't be afraid to speak up. Okay, I'm gonna call out somebody. Doug, do you want to talk about Fullerton and how y'all retain members?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so despite quarantine, Fullerton is still like continuing on with like our general meetings. I know we're having a 24-hour service marathon in about a week, and we're gonna just be, I forgot what the site's called, but it's where you like answer questions, and I think it's through UNICEF and like donate rice. I think we're doing that in the coming weeks, so that's something for our members to do. We are still planning on continuing like recruitment in fall. I'm not sure how our board's going to do that, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. Yeah, that's basically what we've been doing throughout the past since quarantine started. So yeah.
Thank you, Doug. One thing that's gonna be tough for all of us is advertising in the fall, especially if it does last all the way to there. Um, one thing you can do is like potentially talking to your inner club council or like talk to them about any ways to advertise. For anybody that knows any key clubbers coming up into like colleges, like make sure to send it out to, or like send over information to like other clubs. Like if you know somebody's gonna go to UCLA, be like, hey, this member is coming to you guys. You guys should get him in the club, right? Like Key Club is also a very big way of recruiting members.
We still have a little time before we'll go ahead and end this workshop. So, Matthew, I have another question for you.
Oh, wow.
So, for retention, I mean, recruitment, for recruitment, I feel like there's also like the issue of talking with people that are like that were in Key Club or Kiwanis already. And I was just kind of wondering what your ideal strategy for trying to recruit those types of people are.
Thank you for your question, Braden. One thing that I really want to point out is you cannot make our organization sound like it's Key Club 2.0 or it's just an extension of Key Club. We are very, very different than Key Club. Key Club has their core values of like character building, service, and all the other ones I can't remember because it's been a while, right? But like for us, like we focus on not only service, but we also focus on professionalism, fellowship. Those are other ways that we are very different from Key Club. Even though somebody like me, or I know a lot of members in Circle K that had a terrible Key Club experience, but they joined because of the opportunity to make friends and the more professional development side of actually being in this organization and having many opportunities to outreach and as well as connect with people that later on could be your potential future employer or you could be their employer. Brayden, if our quarantine status lasts till fall, how will you be able to recruit via tabling if there's no table?
Interesting question. Thank you for bringing this up, Michelle. This is a pretty big thing for us to think about right now because everything has been, thrown into the air. Everything's uncertain, and everyone has different thoughts like, oh my gosh, my banquet's been canceled, or do I need to like postpone it, make it online? Some seniors are like, are we going to have graduation? We're going to have a ceremony, that sort of thing. Maybe your internships are like up in the air, sort of thing. And so I think for tabling, it's really unsure to say how that's going to go because like maybe you'll table at like summer new student orientations, and because maybe those are virtual, maybe those won't be able to happen anymore. And so maybe if you know that your fall quarter is also going to be virtual, that means that you'll probably have to definitely cross tabling off the line. In which case, I think I can't say for sure, and maybe the colleges will have like a virtual, I don't know, student organizations fair or something, because I know there's like club rushes that happen, and maybe there'll be a substitute for that. If not, grill your student union or something, because I think that's also something important also. Besides those direct events will actually help student organizations in general actually advertise their clubs, I think it's also important to be able to keep your social media and website, if you have a website, up to date, because those also will be ways for people to reach out to your clubs if they're especially invested and interested in joining your club. But yeah, basically, it's just hard to tell what'll happen with tabling or recruitment in fall, especially. You have anything to mention on this, Matt?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on this. I would say one thing is if your school has like a club like information listing, make sure you're on that. Especially if like they're gonna send that out to potential new people that are coming to the school. One thing I want to say is like we all are pretty sad about what's going on, right? Like we're sad that we can't actually meet in person. STC actually can't be like in person like it was planned, and a lot of things like banquets have been having to having to go online because of this, and like even like DCMs, decon. Look for the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like at the end of the day, like we will be together at one time. We will be together at one point. And I want to say like I really really think that we are going to have a membership boost this year because of this quarantine. Everybody's been bundled up in their homes, having to like be all alone because of social distancing, and especially if people didn't really have good friends before this. So look at it like when we come back, everybody's going to look for new friends. Everybody's looking for an opportunity to make those connections and like socialize, right? Because as soon as social distancing is over, oh Lord have mercy, the social butterflies that'll be afloat looking for a new club, and make sure you are that club.
Awesome. So we have a question that's kind of directed towards everyone for discussion from Alana. They mentioned, for clubs with family systems or big little / mentorship systems, do they help a lot with retention? So does anyone want to like share their experiences? Hi, Doug. I see your raised hand.
Doug.
All right, so the question was about family systems, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so in my personal experience, the family system, like Brayden and Matthew have said, it actually really does help. And I noticed that clubs, especially those who have like a strong membership foundation, with members who have been in the organization for at least, a year or two, it's good to grow the newer members, especially those that are coming from like CCs or like other branches of Kiwanis, so aka Q Club or Kiwans. Like you should make sure to use the members who have experience in the club to pass that knowledge on and what they've learned. So it's not just like, the things you like it, like their experiences are like very genuine and very unique. So it's not something you can read in a manual, like on the CNH website. So you should really tap into those members and pair them up if possible. So that's just my experience.
I want to chime in just a tad bit on that. Also remember for family systems and mentor-mentee systems, you have to make them based on your club, right? For a club like Fullerton, Long Beach, or even UCI, UCLA, like they can create huge families and are able to do that. But some clubs, I mean, like mine, like that's not possible. Like I had 4 members starting off the term. If I made 4 families or 2 families, it'd be 2 people per, right? It's just not possible. Especially if this is your first year doing a family system and a mentor-mentee system, like do one or the other. For smaller clubs, I recommend having a mentor-mentee or what CPP has, which is 3 peas in a pod. Like having like 1 mentor to 2 mentees, right? Like doing things like that compared to, don't feel obligated to have to do what the big clubs do. Make sure you do things that help your club, not everybody else's clubs.
So we're still accepting questions. We are going to aim to end at 9, but we can push a little past it in case y'all have extra questions or things you want to mention.
We'll go like 1 more minute just to make sure we answer all last questions. It looks like there is none. So I guess I'll do little closing thoughts. Thank you all for coming. It really does mean a lot that you guys took the time to come out to our workshop. Me and Braden were thrown into this last minute, so I want to give a really, really big shout out to Braden for making the slide design and also like really just being on top of everything when it came to helping me make this workshop. It really means a lot to like have him help me with this. And in terms of, if you want to go to the next slide, Braden. So if you ever want to contact us, like don't ever feel like you can't just reach out, message me on Messenger or email me. Like I'm always just a click away, and I'm always down to like talk, right? We're making friends out here. So I'm always down to talk to you guys. And like I said earlier, look for the light at the end of the tunnel. Keep your head on your shoulders and keep that head up high.
Thank you, Matt. For my closing thoughts, I'd also like to shout out Matt for working on the slides with me and bearing with me as we finish these up through the past week, because I know we were thrown into this, and especially because he's taking Metro Lieutenant Governor this term, and there's a lot of things that are happening with training and stuff and trying to get used to everything being online. And I'm just really proud that he was able to pull through and put together this amazing presentation with me. I also like to thank all of you because I know that recruitment and retention is a really big thing in trying to get members, because there's a lot happening. Maybe you're seeing membership declines, and this is just something that's really on your mind and you're not sure if doing the same things over and over again will help. So yeah. So the sign in link is put on here. It is bit.ly/CNH-STC 2020. Let me type it out right now. Chat. There it is in the chat. Also, you can scan the super cool QR code. Please make sure to sign in, get your hour for being attending this workshop, or maybe others if you attended multiple or something. And do feel free to give feedback also, because there's a lot of things in R&R that we can't cover completely. And maybe if you think there are also some really specific things that should be covered in R&R, that hopefully what your feedback says will be able to get out there for anyone else that hosts these workshops at other events. Like Matt said, you can also feel free to contact me. My email is on the slide, cki.braden1@gmail.com, or contact me on Facebook Messenger. I may be a fourth year, I may be old, retired, and about to be an alumni, but I already have a leadership position for this term that'll last until my dues expire. So I'm not giving up on Circle K that easily. I'm going to be here for the ride to watch everyone push through the summer and maybe even see how the rest of the term goes. So yeah, thank you all for coming so much again. Please don't forget to sign in. And thank you all for coming to Spring Training Conference.